So to make it simpler to understand, here I have an example, and here we have 4 weapon parts. Now I want to make it very clear that although we are working with weapon, the system can be basically used for anything. You can use it for characters, you can use it to make procedural characters with different heads, different body, etc. You can also use it for different procedural houses or cars, you know, whatever you want to, as long as they're simple and as long as it's just about attaching and combining different parts, it's going to work. So let's start off with this body. Say we have this body part and we are going to be creating a weapon out of this. So we have 2 attachment points. These 2 circles, the blue and the red one, they are the attachment points, meaning we can attach another part in this attachment point, and this attachment point is going to accept a trigger, and this attachment point is going to accept a mag guard. So if we were to attach them visually, this is what it would look like. We have the trigger over here, this is our mag guard, we're gonna attach it over here, and we have our mag, this is going to go here. So you can see this is already resembling a gun. You have the body, you have the trigger, you have the mag guard and the mag. The stock and the barrel and the muzzle, those things are missing, but I didn't use those because I wanted to keep it short. As long as you get the concept, that's what matters. So when you do that, it's forming a tree structure. Now to talk about it in a more coding related term, what happens is when we are attaching our trigger, to this point, what's happening is the parent is of the body part it's still going to be null, the parent type is still going to be null, but the children is going to change now. Children is going to have one element that's going to be the part type, it's going to be trigger, and it's going to hold the trigger part object because we connected these two using the trigger attachment point. And over here the parent is going to be changing to body part, and the parent type is going to be body because that is what the type is. It all makes sense, right? There we go. Okay. And the children, it's going to be empty because we do not have any children and it cannot accept any children either. Now for the mag guard point, we have a mag guard point and we're going to be attaching one. Okay, this one is supposed to, let's just keep it like that. So we're attaching the mag guard over to the mag guard attachment point. Now what's gonna happen is for the children variable, we're going to be adding another record, and this one is going to be the part type is going to be mag guard, and the key is going to be the mag guard part. So I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger. So this is what it's gonna look like. Okay, so now we have 2 children. This body part has 2 children now, and this one is gonna change. The parent is going to be the body part, and the parent type is going to be the body. Now we have our mag left, but where does this mag go? This mag goes into the mag attachment point, and when it goes there, this is what it's gonna look like. Okay, let's just bring an arrow from here. The starting point is going to be here, and the ending point is going to go over here. Okay, makes sense, right? So now the children variable is going to get updated now, since we have a mag attached to our mag guard attachment point. Its children, it's going to be mag part. Okay, and sorry, it's the attach type is going to be Mac, and the value is going to be the Mac part. So you can see that it's forming a tree structure. At the very top we have the body, and the body has one child that's gonna be it's gonna have two children. The first one's gonna be Trigger, and the second one is going to be the Mag Guard. Just like that. It's gonna, the Mag Guard itself, it's going to have a child called Mag. So you can see that it's forming a tree structure, and this is going to get more and more complex for how many parts you have. So in our project we have a lot of parts. We have the barrel, the body, grip, handguard, and all these things. So it has the children that we talked about. That's what we're going to be calling as attached parts. So this is going to hold all of the children, and the children are going to be it's going to be a map, and it's going to be, the key is going to be the type of attachment that the child is plus the object itself. Okay, and then we have the parent. The parent is going to be a reference to the parent, and then the parent type is going to be basically the parent type itself. Okay, so let's see more about how we define the attachment points and everything. So we have the body one, but we did not define the attachment points here. We define it in data assets. So let's go to our data asset, and let's open up our example data asset. Here we have so for us, our data asset is a key and value pair. It's a map. For the key, it's going to be the weapon part class. So the body one refers to our weapon part, this one. This is this one over here, and its attachment data is this data asset over here. This is what I call the attachment data, and attachment data is going to hold a list of attachment points. For example, here, right, this is our body part, and we have 2 attachment points as an example. That's exactly what's happening here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attachment points, and that's what we are defining here. We have 6 attachment points. So if you want to visualize this, let me just bring it here. If you want to visualize this, this would be like this handguard would have its own attachment point here, then trigger over here, then the mag guards over here. You know, you get the idea, I hope. It's basically where we define our attachment points, and every attachment point is going its key value is going to be an attachment point data asset. This is where we defined all of the parts class that can be attached to that specific attachment point. In our example, we just have one trigger, right? But in our actual application, we have a bunch of different triggers. So what we do is we have a bunch of attachment triggers, and the trigger attachment point can attach all of them, right? So that's this is where we define all of those weapon parts class that can be attached to this attachment point. And its key is going to be the socket name. So the name of my socket is this one. This is where all of the hand sockets can be attached. So if I bring this one up, and if I were to open the skeleton of the skeletal mesh, you can see that I have a bunch of sockets, and handguard socket is one of them. And I'll just show you by attaching a handguard that it looks like this. So here we can attach different handguards, and that is what this value means. This is basically the name of the socket where we can attach all of these parts. And the rule defines the rule for the attachment points. Some attachment points can be can be optional, and some can be mandatory. It's not recommended for you to select anyone else except these two. These two are this first one is, I just added the first option because by default they were all being mandatory and I did not want them to be mandatory by default, so I just added no change at the very top. And the not allowed, it's used by the rule system that we are going to be talking about in the future. And basically if I want to talk about what the rule system does, it's going to allow you to not attach certain parts depending on what your tree looks like. Okay, so that's the overall data structure, I would say. So now the next thing we're going to be talking about is the functionality, some of the functionalities and everything that's that I think is important to know. So now let's have a look at one of the main functionality of the system, that is attaching a part to another part. So in our example, we are going to be attaching a trigger to our body, and the result that we expect is we expect the trigger to get attached to the body part like this, and it's going to do that by making use of the sockets that we defined in our attachment data asset. And this and then the trigger's parent value needs to get updated as well. So the parent type and the parent variable, they need to get updated to the type of the parent, that's going to be the body, and it's going to need to also update the parent itself. So it's that the parent is going to hold the reference to the body object. And as for the parent needs to add a new key value pair to the children variable. So it's going to have trigger type, and it's going to the value is going to be the trigger part object itself. So this object itself. Okay, so this is the result, but internally what happens is we just do two simple checks. Okay, well, they're not that simple, but two checks. The first check is we are going to be checking if the attachment point is already occupied or not. So we are trying to occupy the trigger attachment point, right? So what we want to do is, the first check is we are going to check if the trigger attachment point is already attached. For example, if it's already here and we are trying to attach another trigger, it's going to fail because this attachment point is already occupied. Okay, that's the first one. The second check is going to be checking based on the rule. We are going to get the new rule after we do some rule check. So this is something that we're going to be discussing in the future when we talk about rules. So what rule does is it's going to modify the existing rule. So by default, let's say a body part needs to have a trigger point. It's like a mandatory attachment point. Okay, but if we set up a rule in such a way that if there is a mag guard attached, then the trigger attachment point is going to turn from mandatory to optional, stuff like that. So that's what the rule system allows us to do. It allows us to dynamically change the rule of attachment points based on the current parts that are available in the whole tree structure. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Basically, we have the can be attached. Okay, yeah, this is the attachment function, and it has this function, a wrapper function, that's going to return true if we can attach this weapon part to this weapon part. So it's going to attach to the to the socket. It's going to attach the child to the parent socket, and then it's going to update the values like I told you. And if you have a look at the checks, the first check is very simple. It's just going to check if the attachment point is occupied or not for the parent. The second check is a lot more complicated. It's basically going to It's going to do a lot of things, that's all I'm going to say. But I told you the concept of rule, and I'm going to be explaining this in more detail as we go along as well. So the rule system works by taking in or processing 4 values. The first one's going to be the attaching part. This is going to be the part that we are going to be attaching, or that we are trying to attach. And the attaching to is going to be the part where we are trying to attach the attaching part. So when we are trying to attach a Mac to a trigger, this is going to be the attaching part, and this is going to be the attaching to, or the parent. The third variable is going to be the sequence that we are looking for, and the fourth is the rule that we are going to set when we find the sequence that we are looking for. Okay, so in our case, let's say we are attaching a Mac to a trigger, and we are going to set the rule for the Mac attachment point to not allowed when we find body and Mac guard hierarchy. So let's say this is what our weapon tree looks like. Okay, we have a body, we have the trigger, Mac guard, we have the Mac, and we have this, and we are trying to attach this. So the first thing we have is we have the Mac, right? We have this, and then we have the trigger reference. The third is we are going to check if this sequence exists. So let's form a tree structure based on this. So we have at the very top we have the body. From the body we have the Mac. Sorry, this one's supposed to not be here. Just gonna add a Mac guard, and we have a trigger on the left side. Okay, and the Mac guard, it has a Mac. Perfect. So this is our current tree structure. So we have our Mac guard, this is the attaching part, this is the attaching to part, and then we have the sequence. So let's see what the first sequence is. The first sequence is going to be, first sequence is body, and then trigger. Does this match the sequence that we are looking for? No, it doesn't. The second sequence is going to be body, Mac guard, and Mac. Does this sequence have body and Mac? Yes, it absolutely fucking does. We can see that there is a body and a Mac guard sequence, and so it means that we found a sequence. So now we're going to be altering the rule of this attachment point. So the new rule is supposed to be not allowed, right? So the new rule has been set to not allowed. So based on this, we know that we cannot attach it anymore because the rule is now not allowed. So that's how the rule system works. It's basically going to analyze the whole tree. It's going to check for the sequence that's mentioned in the rule, and and if we find the sequence, we're going to apply that new rule that we defined. Now we're going to be doing the same thing, but for a different scenario. Now let's say this is what the weapon part is like, and we are trying to attach a Mac guard. Okay, so that's what the scenario is. So now the rule to not allow Mac guard to embody when a trigger of a body has a Mac already. Okay, so the part we are attaching is a Mac guard, and we are attaching it to a body, and the sequence that we are going to be looking for is a body, trigger, and a Mac. And if this happens, we're not going to be allowing it. Okay, so here the tree is very simple. We start off with the root, then we have the trigger, and then we have the Mac. So like literally at the very start of the tree, you can see that we have the combination, we have the sequence, so we are not going to allow it. It's clear as day. Hopefully. Sorry for burping right there. I didn't mean to, just came out. So yeah, that's the rule system. And if you look at the rule system, so this function, it's going to do the processing and all those things, and after the processing, it's going to return the new rule. So it's a bit complicated, but if I have to explain it in a very generalized format, we are getting the rule based on the attaching object and the attaching to object, and then we get the rule. Then we are okay, you know what, what's gonna be better is showing you the data structure of the rule first. So the rule is very simple. It's very simple compared to the attachment data. So here we have a rule set up for the barrels. Okay, so a barrel being attached to a body, okay, is not allowed when this sequence exists. I hope you have been able to understand that. A barrel, when we are attaching it to a body, is not allowed. So a barrel cannot be attached to a body, not allowed, when this sequence exists, when a body and a handguard sequence exist. Let's check, let's have a look at another rule. A handguard cannot be attached to a body, not allowed. Okay, not allowed means yeah, not allowed when there's a sequence of body and a barrel. Okay, so a handguard when attaching to a body, a barrel, is not allowed when there's a sequence of body and a barrel. A barrel, yeah, okay. So a body when attaching to a barrel, it's not going to be allowed if it has any of these two sequences. The first sequence is going to be a body, so a body cannot be attached to a barrel if the barrel already has a body. It only makes sense, right? So and the second is if the barrel has a handguard and a barrel combination, the sequence, then we are not going to be able to attach a body. So if we want to look at a real life example in the project, we are going to be spawning a root part. Okay, so let's have a look at the rules again. So what was the rule? The rule was, let's have a look at the barrel itself. A barrel cannot be attached to a body when the body has a handguard next to it. So this is our body, we spawned our body, and we are going to attach a handguard. So that's our handguard right there. So now, if we try to attach a barrel, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna freaking work because of the rule that we defined in here. If we spawn a body and we attach a barrel by itself, it's gonna work. But let's have a look at the handguard rule. A handguard cannot be attached to a body when the body has a barrel. So if we try, so the body already has a barrel, so if we try to attach a handguard, it's not gonna work. Makes sense, right? And let's have a look at another condition as well. A handguard when attaching to a barrel is not going to be allowed if the body has a barrel or the barrel has a body. It doesn't really matter. The sequence is ultimately reversed as well. The reverse sequence is also checked because since we do not have a fixed starting point, any part can be a starting point, so we have to make sure that we check the reverse sequence as well. So we check for body barrel sequence, and we also check for barrel body sequence. So we are not going to be able to attach. So let's select our barrel, and we are gonna try to attach a handguard to this, and this should fail because a handguard cannot be attached to a barrel when there's a body and a barrel. So yes, it's failing. So yes, that is the rule system as well, and I think that's all there is to this. Thank you.